This is the story of how I got a world record in Mario Kart World on Whistlestop Summit. In a lot of ways, this should not have happened. In many ways, this was almost an impossible task, and I am so happy I got the job done. I think this story is relatable in several ways for anyone who has contemplated speedrunning in a game, all the way to trying to succeed at the highest level. Whistlestop Summit. This is the third track in the Mushroom Cup. Typically, tracks in the Mushroom Cup for Mario Kart games are going to be more simple than other tracks in the later cups during the game's progression. Honestly, this is the case for Whistlestop Summit, at least initially. This track has had one of the biggest overhauls compared to any other track in the first month of the game, and each strategy has gotten progressively more difficult. You'll see this more later on. Let's start at the beginning of a time trial for the track. Instantly, less than 1 second in, you are faced with the first technique you need to pull off. Your starting position makes it barely possible to hold hard left and hop up the brick wall. If done well, you can turn to the right after landing, hit the railing, and be on your way. If you cannot do this lap 1, you lose at least 1.5 seconds or more depending on what strategy you do. Believe it or not, I quit learning this track due to this. I did some of my tracks to complete a time for each track for a complete timesheet while on stream, including this one. After 20 minutes, I gave up and went to other tracks instead. And to be honest, I was a bit let down. I love theming for tracks in Mario Kart games, and a train-themed track such as this one really got my interest with initial footage for the game. In my mind, I just couldn't get over how this track had an annoying mechanic less than a second into the run. Well, eventually, I had to go back here to complete a time. After some help on my stream, I was able to pull this off semi-reliably. Hopping after crossing the white line and starting to turn right after landing on the brick wall helped me to get this down. I got a high 157 while the record was already in 154 territory, so still a decent ways off the world record. I eventually got on the worldwide top 10 here at 8th place with a 155.111. Then progressed to a 155.069 and a 155.042 shortly after getting to 7th place. At this point, I was almost 1 second behind Tyler's 153.979 world record. This, however, was before big discoveries were made on the track. The only complicated spots were getting that beginning hop at the start of the race, optimizing the shroomless shortcut in the middle of the track, and navigating the tricky mushroom on the final corner due to the shape of the slope. Enter Tyler's 153.723. This featured the first strategy change in the beginning section of the track. Angling your rail trick onto the overhang of the bridge allowed him to get a second trick off of it, followed by a wall trick off the fence after. This was so surprising when first watching it, and clearly saved a lot of time compared to what was done previously. Instantly, I was floored trying this out and couldn't really make much progress. In the back of my mind, I felt this section is likely to have some more discoveries, so instead of grinding this new technique out, I continued to lower my time to fine-tune my driving for the rest of the track. I thought by doing this, when new discoveries were made, it was simply in addition to my collective driving for the track, because at this point, I was still learning how to do each sequence of the track properly, especially for the ending. And so that's what I did. My efforts paid off well, and I got to 3rd worldwide without learning this beginning strategy, finally being less than 1 second off of world record. Enter Tyler's 153.435 1 day later. This is the second strategy discovered, where you can do a wall ride on the red rock face and trick off of it, landing back onto the left rail and navigate tighter around the bend. If I thought the first discovery was hard, this took it several levels further. When I tried, my airtime was too low, or I would fly far past where you are supposed to land. an even harder strategy to pull off, and I could not understand it quick enough. And so this is where I stopped playing the track. I initially tried my efforts to get world record on Acorn Heights in the first days of the game, and I peaked at almost second worldwide. But I couldn't adapt in time to get the record there. I started my efforts on Whistlestop and felt a similar roadblock. I decided to start doing attempts on some of my other favorite tracks in the game in the following days instead. I got worldwide tops on Dry Bones Burnout, Boo Cinema, and later on re-entered Acorn Heights worldwide tops with the newer strategies there. But in the back of my mind, something told me I wasn't done on Whistlestop Summit, and that I am capable of learning these strategies. When I decided I wanted to go back to do some more attempts and potentially get within range of world record, we entered discovery number 3. Enter Tyler's 152.223. This is one of the hardest strategies for any track at the current moment and completely revolutionized how you play the track. This is the green sign strategy. By tricking off the railing, you can wall ride the side of the bricks, do a right trick into the sign, and if timed properly, a part of the animation is jammed, and the momentum sends you far to the right to barely land on the side of the green staircase, with this side actually having rail terrain. Once you're on here, you can do another trick onto the wall for a wall ride, trick off, land back on the green railing, do one more trick, go around the curve, and complete your lap. Instead of doing the shroomless shortcut in the middle, using your mushroom through the grass became faster, as with the new green sign strategy, you skip the entire lower part of the track for the rest of each lap. At a first glance, I actually thought this shouldn't be too bad. Oh, how wrong I was with that one. I went to YouTube, I went frame by frame advancing the video player to get some ground markers to make this strategy work. Okay, cross the yellow line, do my 2 left tricks. Simple enough. Ride up the wall until you're almost going off it and do a right trick specifically for the jammed trick animation on the sign. Got it. Just hold right to keep my momentum to land on the side rail here. Let's try it. Oh no. I tried again, failed. Tried again, failed. This process would go on longer than I care to say. I did not get this successfully even one time for a few hours. And even when I made it, it felt aimless, completely luck-based. Trying even longer, I could not replicate this with any confidence behind it. Another discouraging moment. How is this track, of all tracks, having progressively more difficult strategies discovered on a Mushroom Cup track? Keep in mind that at this point, I couldn't do the beginning Red Rock strategy in any form. Now I can't do this strategy being the most important one, generating the most time save each lap of well over 1 second per lap. And yet, I decided to continue on. I slept on it, then tried again the next day. I progressively got new improvements despite a very poor conversion rate for this strategy. I got back to 10th worldwide with a 153.647, doing the strategy 1 for 3. I improved another time to 153.181, getting back to 3rd worldwide with a 2 for 3. Then I got my first 3 for 3 run with a 152.538. This got me to 2nd worldwide, my highest placing in Mario Kart World so far. This did the green sign strategy 3 for 3, but did not do the beginning strategy at all, which loses at least 300 milliseconds or more every lap. This proved I was definitely good enough for world record here if I could finally learn the beginning strategy and clutch a 3 for 3 green sign run at the same time. You may have noticed already, but Tyler has been the dominating force on Whistlestop Summit for the first month of Mario Kart World. He was at the forefront of implementing new strategies, including the green sign strategy, and gets a 3 for 3 run instead of trying to progress a 1 for 3 to a 2 for 3, then to a 3 for 3 from how hard this is. I knew I was going up against very tough competition to do this, and every time I got a little bit closer, he would pull several miles away again at the same time. But once I got second worldwide, I knew there was one more step to take and that my best was more than capable of being the best in the world. So I started to do my best to learn the beginning Red Rock strategy. At this point, I had over 1 week of a deficit of not practicing this strategy whatsoever from my break to play other tracks. And once I returned here, I did not learn it until my 3-for-3 green sign run. Once I finally started to get a grip on this, I started getting laps that were ahead of world record, and my laps progressively got much stronger. But my bottleneck was still this beginning Red Rock strategy. I finally pieced together runs that were going to be nearly level with world record until lap 3, but failed to the hardest strategies, the green sign and the Red Rock. I want to also give a shout out to Tollfool, who pulled through on his own efforts to beat Tyler's 151.778 with a 151.618. He adapted nicely here and also introduced a smaller strategy at the beginning of laps 2 and 3, but tricking between the yellow railing and the wall, and when done optimally, saves at least 100 to around 150 milliseconds for laps 2 and 3. As I still couldn't do the Red Rock strategy consistently enough, I chose not to adapt this until later on. Tyler had a massive improvement to beat this back with a 151.280, and I was again more than 1 second away from world record. Introducing Tyler's 158.68. This next discovery is another massive one, and very difficult in its own right. This new strategy utilizes a charge jump, and when angled well and released at the right time, you barely clear the gap, and you use your mushroom to recover from the slowdown in speed. This is an awkward and difficult strategy to pull off, so again you'd think this may be done 1-for-3 for a new world record. This was done 3-for-3 off the bat. In fact, Tyler would do this 3-for-3 3 times in one day. 158.68, 150.750, then a 150.001. I am now 2.5 seconds behind world record again, and I am in 8th place. What in the world just happened? Whistlestop Summit just completely morphed into a whole different track in essentially every way. The beginning Red Rock strategy, maneuvering the railings for the coins, which are challenging in of itself, a hard charge jump on a slope to maneuver over to clear a whole gap shroomless, land in the proper angle, mushroom away, and do the monstrous green sign strategy. Oh, and if that's not bad enough, this tiny curve cut at the end saves only in the realm of maybe 50 to 60 milliseconds, but if you do this too early, it's actually out of bounds. And if you do it too late, you fly too far and lose your run. Just when I was materializing runs without the gap jump that were world record pace until lap 3, the goal post is widened so far with another very hard strategy. Every time I got 2 steps closer, the world record was sent 10 steps further away. In many ways, getting a world record here is almost impossible with these discoveries and the incredible talent that was improving this track along the way. I decided not to give up my efforts. I regrouped, readjusted my goal to be second worldwide first, then to set my sights on world record again and get every strategy 3-for-3 in a run. And that's what I started to do. It took a while, but I eventually got an improvement to a 152.004, getting back to 4th worldwide. This was still 2 full seconds off of world record to go from 4th to 1st. How insane is that? I started getting some big fails again that would contend for world record. 2 days later, this was improved to a 149.903 by Tyler, then cut by almost half a second by Japanese player Bochiyama. If you don't know Japanese player Bochiyama, he had world records on Mario Circuit, Airship Fortress, and Dry Bones Burnout before getting world records on this track. Another strong contender entering the competition here. Yet again, I am over 2.5 seconds behind world record. Honestly, even when reflecting on these chain of events, I still cannot believe how things went that I continued to stick my efforts despite how much further away I was distanced from attaining world record. This is where a strong mentality for speedrunning comes into play. I made a whole video on this a few months ago, and it's still one of my favorite videos I've ever made. If you enjoyed this one, I am sure you will enjoy watching that one too. I basically utilize all aspects of the mentality I laid out in that video to see this through to the end. I tried to focus on seeing out my own potential beyond whatever the world record time happened to be. At this point, I was hitting splits and paces that would clear even this world record by a lot, but was so difficult to get that done with how hard this track had become now. I wanted to see myself nail a huge time that would capture the essence of my potential, and that driving force was more powerful than the world record being pushed further away. One day later, Bochiyama improved again by 400 milliseconds to a 1:49.048. This seems ridiculous, but I became almost exactly 3 seconds behind world record again. And somehow, I wasn't bothered by this. I knew my best and my paces I was starting to get could still beat this. It seemed pretty silly putting world record attempts in my stream titles with being 3 seconds off of world record, but I knew I could get this done. Fast forward to the next day, this became one of the craziest days for all of my time of Mario Kart ever. In only one day, I improved from 152.004 to 149.336, almost 2.7 seconds, back to second worldwide and almost at world record. My lap 3 and my 149.336 got a poor gap cut lap 3, and I was actually nearly tied with Bochiyama to this point in my ghost race. Prior to this, I had a 159.66, getting the 4th worldwide that completely failed the gap jump outright lap 3, losing over 1 second and failing out on 2nd worldwide. My second improvement was again by another full second to 149.961, getting back to 3rd worldwide. On that evening, I finally started to do the beginning lap 2 and lap 3 wall strategy, which was being done in records now and adapted quickly. On my stream that night, I got so many huge paces that failed at the end of lap 2, including some paces that were almost 200 milliseconds to over 300 milliseconds lap 3 that would end up failing at the very end of lap 3 to that green sign strategy. No! So unlucky, man! That was it! Oh my god! In the end, the night concluded without a world record in my hands. Each day was a coin toss if this record was improved while I was at work during the day. The following day was Friday, June 28th. To my luck, Tyler and Bochiyama were both unable to get improvements during the day. I knew this was going to be my biggest opportunity to get this world record before even more strategies are discovered and implemented. It was clear this mushroom usage to recover from the gap jump was not optimal, as if you land it perfectly, you can recover shroomless, but if you land barely short and lose some of your speed, you lose too much time unless you use your mushroom to recover your speed. It was clear this was the future of the track, and when that would come, runs here would continue to become more tedious to complete. Seeing this opportunity, I got home, ate dinner, made a fresh cup of coffee, got to my battle station, and booted up my stream. And this session ended up being an absolute failure. In over 2 hours, my timings on all the major strategies, the red rock bridge trick, the gap jump, and the green sign were all off. I fluked one random world record pace run into lap 3 around 30 minutes in, but got basically nothing beforehand and for over 1.5 hours after. I felt the pressure of this being one of my last real opportunities to get this done, and wondering if someone else was going to push this further again during my session. I vocalized on stream a few times that sometimes these types of bad sessions are the ones that eventually give way to a big breakthrough. But yesterday, man, was like the best day ever. Like, it's crazy how I didn't convert a record yesterday. I had maybe 12 or 15 fails in total on lap 3. It's just like yesterday's session, or sessions plural, were so ridiculous that like today, like this should be considered normal, but yesterday was so ridiculous, you know? So, but definitely I'm off today with my racing. I'm like 1 to 2 frames off of most timings here compared to yesterday. But again, as I mentioned, sometimes these types of sessions are what breeds the times, you know? It'll just come out of nowhere, just randomly it happens. So just gotta stick with it. I kept repeating that to keep a good mentality and to not give up my efforts. After a little over 2 hours of feeling off on all my attempts and driving, something started to change. I started to get some pretty good lap 1s finished and having some beginning red rock fails on lap 2. I knew this was the start of the swing of momentum in my session, and I focused as much as I could to get into my zone playing. Eventually, I get this pace at the end of lap 2. No, so unlucky. That was my best pace ever for sure. That was essentially almost 2 perfect U-turns. That's so unlucky. This was going to be by far my fastest pace materialized to that point and entering lap 3. It was devastating failing this way time and time again. But I regrouped and clicked restart. The very next run, something amazing happens. Come on! Let's fucking go! Yes! Thank God! Yes! Yes! Fucking finally, yes! Let's fucking go! Yes! Oh my fucking God, we did it! Yes! We have to make sure it's real. Fellas, hold yourselves. I swear to fucking God, if this was improved during that time, please, God, please. I just want one fucking record, please. Let's fucking go! Yes! Woo! Yes! Yes! Let's go! Let's fucking go! Yes! Come on, everyone! Let's go! Oh my God. Oh my God, we did it! We did it. We clutched the run despite all the odds. Got the first 148 on Whistlestop Summit and got my first world record in the game. This was my new fastest pace into lap 3 ahead of Bochiyama's world record. Each time I watch this back, I still cannot believe this worked. This setup is almost impossible, from losing some time having a bounce landing before the first trick, landing too far and low on the wall, and needing to do my trick off the rock at the very last second. And somehow, someway, I went up far enough to catch the railing. This lost at least 200 milliseconds compared to my fastest method of this part. Notably, I go for an even faster but harder and more inconsistent method of the red rock jump than Tyler and Bochiyama. It was worth it learning this strategy in the end, as an even faster method of this was pioneered by Tyler later on. I also opted to not go for the tiny time save at the last curve lap 3, as I was clearing world record by too much to throw this opportunity away. For those of you that do not know my prior Mario Kart history, I've set world records in Mario Kart Wii a long time ago when I was at my peak in the game as the game's #1 overall time trial champion. The last time I drove a world record and knew it was the actual world record was December 2011, over 13 years ago. I retroactively was given world records for runs I did on N64 Bowser's Castle after coming back in that game in 2017, after the previous holder was found to be cheating their time trial several years later. So I only knew those times to be second in the world and not world record when I drove them. The last time I drove a world record on stream was September 2010. That is so much time between then and now. I think that was also what made this moment all that much more meaningful, and my pop off for a reaction for this in the moment was so liberating in a way. I will always love speedrunning and doing time trials for Mario Kart games. With this new Mario Kart, I wanted to become skilled enough to do each track well, perhaps get some worldwide top 10 times, and as a stretch to one last time be at the top for a track for a world record. To say I am happy with this is an understatement, but at the same time I am extremely relieved that the pressure is off to get my first one in this game. I hope some part of my story and journey here inspires you for your own speedrun efforts. As you have seen, there were too many opportunities here and reasons why I could have quit this track of all tracks and tried something else. This was the nearly impossible task of getting the world record on one of the game's hardest tracks with some of the hardest strategies and competing against some of the strongest competitors. The ending result of getting this world record with that entire journey is so satisfying. And now I have this forever in the game's history, and having set world records now in more than one game. As predicted, this track is once more completely changed, with utilizing the mushroom before the gap jump, needing to do a perfect gap jump for recovery afterward, and do all the hard strategies still 3 for 3. I would love to continue efforts here in the future to be competitive and maybe get a few more records here over time. For now, I am more than content with what I achieved, and I look forward to getting some more top 10 times on other tracks and maybe getting another unique track world record under my belt. I hope you all enjoyed this and learned something from the journey. I wish you luck on your own speedrunning efforts, whether you do time trials in Mario Kart games or do speedruns in any other game out there. Continue to seek out your own best, because the pinnacle of your own best can be even greater than what you already believe.